This is Ep03 of the Median Athlete Show. I am excited to keep this going. With me today is John Stock, introduced by a friend of ours, Buster. So shout out to Buster for connecting us together.
That's my man right there.
That's right. We love Buster. So John, would you mind just giving you a quick intro, who you are, what you're all about?
So I'm John Stock, and I'm a runner, man. I run. I enjoy all the aspects of it, even the bad parts. And I happen to have a really great support system, running mates, and that is massive. Because doing this by yourself, coming from the place I've come from, is kind of dangerous. It'll be always helpful, but it's kind of dangerous, man. Other than that, I'm living in Nashville, and I run a lot here in Nashville. Do a couple of Alabama races and Florida races, but mostly it's here in surrounding area of Nashville.
So how long have you been in Nashville?
When I first came here, I worked at Columbia,
Okay.
which was a complete shock from Michigan. And then I stayed down there for about 10 or so years, and then I started gravitating north, which it just seemed to fit a little bit better for me city-wise. So total about 25 years. So I'm 53.
Nice. And so you started out with I'm a runner. What got you into running? How did you just become a runner?
Let's see. So I started running when I was in my 20s, but nothing consistent. And yeah, it just came from a place of like really chaotic, in the home life. So I was just really hit and miss, and I wasn't even really sure what I wanted about anything about this life. It was just like, what the fuck is going on, man? And then, but I was resisting even having a good time, I think at times too, but having, breaks of like real clarity and making sense of some things, I would catch a run every once in a while. I wouldn't be, okay, I'm going to do this every day. It was, when things felt stable, where I laid my head, then I could, oh man, I think I can run. So, I started running just a little bit around city blocks, things like that. And then I would extend out. I didn't have a Garmin at that time, so there's no way I could tell you how many miles I was running. I know I was out for a couple of hours each time I did it, but it wasn't consistent, and I wasn't generally interested in it. I felt something in that run that I wasn't getting in other places, and then finally moved down here, and there was a triathlon in Columbia, Tennessee. I don't know if you know that one.
I don't.
Really good bunch of people down there. They do the canoe and the run and the bike. I think it's off the Duck River, but I love to give those guys a shout out because like
Very cool.
there was my first triathlon type thing, and Troy Blackwell was the one that got me. He said yes to me. I was like, I need a guy, and he was an older guy, but tough as nails. The kind of guy that you meet, you say, "Oh man, that I'd like for that to be my dad." Like he just got all the great characteristics, and he said yes to me on that, and we did really well. I've still got that bib deep in there somewhere in this mess. I got that.
That's awesome.
There. We did really well. I'm way faster than I was back then, though. Like I've grown a lot from that time. And then eventually I moved to, I think we're in South Nashville right now.
Very cool. So I guess are you running with a lot of groups around South Nashville? Do you have a running group? Where do you run usually?
So it's still sporadic, like I told you when I first started. It's a lot sporadic, but there are I'm in a group with called tardigrades, and I run with those guys. It's mostly track, and then they'll do
Okay.
some stuff out there. Deep Well. I don't know if you're familiar with Deep Well.
No.
Highway 100, Percy Warner Park. We do some stuff
Yep.
out there at Deep Well, the Red Trail. If anybody who's a runner would probably most likely know about the Red Trail.
Yep.
Or is going to hear about it and probably dread it. But yeah, that.
So do you prefer trail running over road running primarily?
I think it's more about, I don't really have a preference. Road hurts more.
Yeah.
I feel like, but because trail, I think, but if you run on the right roads, there's enough distractions to where you can kind of smooth out all of those issues and stay in that mile or that pace for as long as you can if you're dialed into it. Yeah, I like both. I mean,
Sure.
I can think about Natchez Trace and my 100 attempt out there and be like, yeah, I fucking hate road. What are you talking about? No, I didn't like that at all. It hurt really bad. And then I think about trail where it was like a 10K or a 5 miler or 10 miler. And then there were some really just moments where everything flowed. So that was really cool to me. And that's what I think about when you ask me that. I'm split because I could go either way.
Yeah, I want to get into trail running more. I have trail running shoes ready to go. I keep wanting to go join up with there's the dirt baggers here in Franklin.
Oh yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and they go down to Smith Park. There's some short trails there, but
Blue Trail.
yeah,
Yeah.
there's
Blue Trail's a motherfucker, man. That'll kick your ass, son.
Yeah, and so especially with with my athletic past of rolling my ankles a lot. I've done a lot of work over the past year or so just to get my ankles back to where I feel like I could actually go on a trail and not roll it. Or probably more my right than my left, but still. But yeah, you see all these ultras, a lot of them are trail running, and it looks like a blast just to be out in the middle of nowhere on the trail. But yeah, I do love road running just because I can just go. I just leave my house, and just figure out where to run, and I'm there. I don't have to go isolate myself somewhere to get some running in.
Right.
So I like I like that as well.
No, that's cool. I'm a lot like that.
Yeah. And so your training style. So talk to me about how much do you focus on training? It sounds like you're just running all the time. Do all you do is run? Do you do any strength training? Do you do any cross training? Or what's your preference there?
I'm really non-committal, man. I don't know that I can commit to anything. Could show up and really impress you. That's about it, man. I have stayed. I do. It's just it feels really random, and I don't try to keep a routine because it seems like routines. I'll just get mad about it, and it'll throw me off. Where if I try to listen to what's happening, paying attention to my experience, and because rest is so bizarre and recovery it's really bizarre for me. I don't know how to do the recovery thing. Of course, I know how to take ice baths and, all of that stuff and massages and everything. But it seems like I find myself in a better place when I'm not scheduled. But if I were to do some exercises, strength training, lunges for my legs. I think those are very, side and front lunges. Those are, I think they're really valuable. I've experienced them as I've did them separately from a training run, and then did it right before training run. And I've had different feelings about it. Like it seemed like it was very helpful right before that, track run or out on the trail, or just doing some workout that I just picked up, maybe. And I think when I was younger, I was more into lifting weights because dealing with like shame seemed to be a big thing for me when I was younger. And I didn't want to feel that, but it doesn't matter, man. When you're young, like shame and that shit's just, you're going to have to deal with it. You probably have to deal with it until you're in your 60s too. No one confesses that, but I'm pretty fucking sure that's what happens.
Well, talk to me more about that. Like, what are you noticing with like past you and shame, and where did that come from? And
I think it's just suppressed stuff that I didn't necessarily want to. I was either afraid or didn't want to talk about, or didn't feel like the people around me were interested in listening to it.
okay,
So it kind of just got to the point. Hopefully, I'm still seeing a point what you're asking.
no, you're fine.
Yeah, I didn't. I just shame was. It's a strong thing that stays with me. I don't know about anybody else, but as soon as I think I'm even feeling it right now. Like, oh shit, I'm on the spot. I got to say something smart. Kasey's gonna think he's bombed another fucking interview. Fucking Buster. Never listen to that motherfucker. But anyway, yeah, I think that shows up. And it's kind of biological for me too, because it's hot. It feels hot to me. And that I react to temperatures a lot.
Okay.
Whether it's running or just sitting somewhere. I feel like I react to heat and cool a lot more than I did when I was like not paying attention to, my experience. Yeah, that's as far as I could go right now because I'm tripping over.
Yeah, that's okay.
Fine.
Do you get to work a lot of that out, like on your runs? Like, there's something to be said about just being by yourself for 30 minutes to a couple hours at least. And even the great philosophers talk about going on a walk just to clear your head, and you figure everything out on a walk. When I'm sometimes at work, when I'm having a big problem, I figure it out either on a run or on a walk. So if you have anything that you've just really just figured out while you're away, while you can actually take your mind out of everything else that's going on, all the distractions of life, and you're just there with yourself. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, who knows? But have you experienced that a lot?
Yeah, yeah. I've had really. I think what I'm thinking of can affect the run, 100%.
Yeah,
and I can embody that whole situation, or someone that's on the run with me can say, hey man, why don't you just be good to yourself? And I've had that happen during different runs that I've been involved in, just in the middle of a run where it's just like everything's falling apart, and somebody will notice it. And the run community is really good at being supportive.
yeah.
And that's one of the big appeals to me of why I joined them, because they can feel what's going on for me without me saying, and they can read the room pretty good.
They've probably been there as well.
Yeah, they know how to. They see that stuff, and they can say things. I'm thinking of a run right now where It was like mile, 10 or 12 or something like that. And there's a guy that just seems like he's floating, and I'm just having the worst fucking race. Worse, my heels are scraping. My
Yep.
form is all like I'm leaning
Just all tight
over.
and
Yeah, I'm just like
yep.
tense. And I remember I don't remember his name, but man, he was so helpful to me on that run. He said, "Hey man, why don't you just be good to yourself?" And at first, when I heard it, I was like, "Fuck you." I didn't want to hear it. I was like, "Yeah, no, no." And then as I went a little bit further down, he kind of planted something inside of me, and it was like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, he's right." And then I felt my form kind of change, and I got a little less tense and started picking my knees. Started bending my knees again, and these are long runs, but yeah, those guys are really, really crucial, and that's the huge appeal for me, and being with the run community, because it turns out I really need community, even though I thought I didn't. I told myself, yeah, they're just out here to be the best they can be. Nah, not all the time, especially in the ultra community. I think they get you, man. That's where you get the most hugs. It's where you get the most I love yous from just random people, man. And they know when they get back
Yeah.
in another way. So yeah, they definitely want to have that moment for themselves in that race, because it's probably one of the things you remember the most.
It sounds like a great time to talk more about community since we're already here. It was on our list to talk about. It's what keeps me going a lot of times too, is just, meeting new people, finding people to run with, people to keep me motivated. Sometimes I get to train with pros, which is very humbling. you
Well,
know.
hell
Um so yeah, you have anything you want to talk about with like people you've met, races, certain races, certain running clubs? Now's your time.
Well, I'm curious about you. I'm curious about who you've ran with.
Yeah, so I am currently running with Working Triathlon. Um, so it's a triathlon group. I can really only make it to the long runs. Um, so the last run I did with them, I think there was like 10 of us or so. I think almost all of them were pro athletes,
Wow.
triathletes. And so, I've been doing like maintenance runs lately, like 3 to 4 miles. I haven't done a lot of long runs at that point, in like in maybe about a month. It had been a minute, so we went on a long run, and I held on for like the first 6 miles, just watching my heart rate creep up like higher than I want it to be. It's like this is no longer a zone 2 run. I'm gonna, it's like okay, so I started pulling away, and this is a route that like I didn't know. I had it downloaded on my watch, but I'm when I'm in the middle of it trying to navigate in a neighborhood, it's not as clear as I want it to be. So they went under a bridge. I got dropped and lost them. I just kept running for a while, and they ended up meeting back up with me, and then we went on a trail. I didn't have the right shoes for the trail, and I was so mad. Um, and I lost them on the trail again. It's like I got dropped and lost twice.
Ah,
Um, but we had a good time, and seeing like where I could be, where I want to be, but also like being okay with where I am right now. That's definitely something to balance. So I ran with them. I do run with the Franklin Road Runners. It's been a minute with Saturday mornings with them too. Met a lot of cool people there. Um, I think Brian, his name's Brian. I can't remember his last name right now. But he just did the half yesterday. A lot of the working triathletes did that, the half yesterday as well. So, and then my buddy Miguel from episode 1
yeah.
from the show, he really got me into running. So, he got me to do the half last year, which then motivated me to do the full this year. And then he also got me to triathlons. So yeah, I'm meeting new people all the time, and it's been a lot of fun. Tell me, like, what's your experience been?
Well, I think you asked me who who I run with, and it seems like I feel like I'm on the same kind of track as you. You meet these people, and they just seem to flow with them for some reason, and it's because they're a part of that run community, and they've done all their suffering, and you can identify with that person, their spirit or constitution, or however you look at that, about that person, and then you just kind of like your soul kind of joins with them in some way. But I thought about doing like a gratitude thing, and maybe this is the best time to do that when you
Sure.
ask me about these folks that I'm completely grateful for, and have kind of put me to this place, brought me to Median Athlete Show with Kasey, and we're talking about some life stuff.
That's right.
So I think the first person that I have probably has brought me to high levels of saying yes, showing up, and performing at my very best is Lori, and that's my wife, my crew chief. She wears so many different, has so many different positions, and I'm sure she didn't sign up for all that, but she definitely fucking shows up and kills it. And I'm proving that.
Do you want Laura to come say hi real
Yeah, I'll
quick?
bring
Just
Lori. If Lori can
okay.
take us on. Yeah. This is Lori.
Hi.
Hi.
um, but Lori doesn't do the long runs with me. She is definitely supportive on some, long run type stuff. But when we talk about gratitude, I think about the first people that I met when I started running in Tennessee, which was in Brentwood, uh, Jess and Ella, which is Ella Dunn. I don't know if you've ever heard about her, but she's an Ironman competitor and
Nice.
I would say that was probably my first mentor, so to speak. But we didn't really have that type of like conversation before we started running. We just went for it, man.
Yep.
And Jess Homeland is another. She was in that first group where I started like really taking off with going distances, and we would run, before work, 5 a.m. to 7, and we would do, 4 miles to 8 miles, and then Jess would go like, let's go 10, and I'm like, I gotta go to fucking work, and okay, well then, we'll just be late or whatever. And that I when I landed, other than Troy Blackwell, the guy who first did that triathlon with me, when I looked back, I thought, man, those two were very inspiring to me. They drove a lot of that. They got me past all the no's, of wanting to go put my shoes on, wanting to leave early. 5 o'clock in the morning is fucking insanely early. Who am I running around with? Why am I running around with them? All those questions were like coming to my mind. But I just kept showing up with them and saying yes. And it has brought me to here, to this particular time. Another guy that I think helped me out a lot was DC, David Carr. He's a Nashville native. Let me back up. Ella lives in Franklin,
Okay.
and Jess lives in Brentwood. DC lives in the Nations, and he's one of my most dear friends in terms of running. The guy that shows up and says yes and kicks ass with me on long runs. He's David Carr's top of the list, man. I've spent so many miles with him, and he's grown. It's been, in terms of community, he's been so big for me, and I've watched him grow with having kids, and still, okay, let's go catch some miles, and he'll go, and we'll go out and we'll run McCabe over there in West Nashville or Two Rivers. He more would prefer not to go with me to Two Rivers because I like to do the running the bleachers and
Oh,
all that shit. That's like, what? No, John, I just wanted to do a couple miles with you, dude. But
what are you doing, John?
Yeah, he's got that. He's got that inner animal in him, and but he's also got a family that he's got to show up for and be good to, and that's one of the reasons I highly respect him. I think if I was a dad, I would want to be like him, man, straight up.
Yeah.
During my time, I spent some time running with Allie Pacini. She's no longer in Nashville, but she has moves to Georgia, Savannah, Georgia, and we can't run anymore until I go see her. I had spent a lot of time with her, and I felt like I bonded with her in that run community type way. And she's always in my thoughts, one of those people that you always think about. Sometimes you don't even know you're thinking about what you're thinking about them. And that goes for everybody that I've ever ran with or that I would mention at this juncture right now in the podcast. But let's see. Patrick, I met Patrick after I kind of moved away from Jess and Ella. They were kind of doing different things, and I just kind of broke away from them and was just still doing the races, but didn't really hit, they both had kids, and college was coming up and just school, and it's just too hard to balance all of it. Yeah, it throws you off. But they're very committed to their families, and that's respectable. And man, hats off to them, in that way. That takes a lot of time, a lot of energy. And then you go try to pull a 6 mile run. Forget it, dude. Forget it. You ain't going to do it. You're going to show up trash, and you're going to be even more mad afterwards.
And most of it is just showing up,
yeah.
A lot of times I've gone on like a bike ride with Miguel before, and he's been like, I want to thank you because, I wouldn't be out here if you weren't out here. And it's interesting because I'm not here because he's out here. Like we're both showing up for each other. Like we're both feeling that accountability pressure to get out and be active. And you don't really know who you're influencing to like, you think that you're being pulled to be out there with them when then they're actually feeling the exact same way.
Mm-hmm.
And it sounds like to me like you're a node and like a center of nodes. It would be kind of cool to like for you to reach out to all of these people you've mentioned and see who can get together for just go on a run on Saturday or something.
That's a great idea.
John's like the center node, and we're all connected to John, and we'll go on a run.
I like being a node.
Yeah.
Because I don't quite understand it. I know there's a solenoid and there's a lymph nodes. I like being that.
Just a little point. Just a little point.
Yeah, I like it. I like that you could frame me into that. It feels pretty good.
Cool.
Yeah, I would like to do that. That would be really fun. And I don't know how achievable it is, but I definitely would enjoy that, because that's kind of like, that's like history, present and past all together in one.
Yeah.
That you can do a lot of work in that area, of self-improvement, when you can see all of those in front of you. You can look in the eyes of those people, and they know when you're bullshitting, and they know when you're being authentic. And sometimes you can manifest things in that whole deal too, and that's another big deal about running for me, is just that community. I think it's probably primarily what I do as far as the community, but I also, it's all self-improvement. I say it more than ever now, before than I've done before, is this is forced growth. When you go out on a run, man, and you don't want to, you're growing.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't really know what's going to happen. Maybe nothing happens. Maybe you have a shit run. Maybe, something shakes loose, and you clear up something that you were mad about for fucking 15 years. Maybe, who knows? I mean, I don't know, how it works, but I want to show up for that, because it's generally about growing and getting better. And then seeing how someone can influence you and you can influence them,
Right.
Yeah.
And my wife yesterday said that she wishes she had a fraction of my motivation to exercise. And like, I responded with, my motivation to exercise exceeds my ability to at this point. Like, that's all I want to do right now, is just be out training and running and biking and swimming. Like, that's all I really care about right now. Like,
Oh yeah,
it's
but
kind of sad to say, but that's just, it's a heavy part of my motivation. But then mechanically, time, just don't, it's just, I want to be out more often than I can be. And, in injury prevention and trying to keep healthy at the same time. Like, you can't just always be going,
right,
even though you want to be.
right.
So how often are you running every week?
I do want to give one more shout out to somebody.
Sure.
I know I forgot a bunch of people in that whole
Oh yeah.
situation, because I didn't mention Buster, but I've mentioned him like 5 times. So
That's right.
you know what I'm saying? Like, he heard me. I want to give a shout out to, I know I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but Venito's Pizza. It's just a bunch of guys down here off of Harding and 65. They're just young
Okay.
guys, but I want to shout them out, because they fed me before many races, and they're just so generous with their generosity, man, their kindness. They're really good people, and they make a great pizza. And I know everybody's got their favorite pizza, so I can't really say they got the best pizza.
Is that your go-to pizza?
Before a race, like I say I'm carbing up. It's kind of a bullshit carbing up kind of thing, because I could be eating like sweet potatoes and not really geared that way. But
Love a good pizza.
yeah, that pizza, man. Like, yeah. But I want to give a shout out to them. And that question that you had was, what? Oh shit! What did you say?
Is
Race?
How often are you running? Like, what's your training style?
It's more random, man. Like that 4x4 that I just did 2 weekends ago. That was getting close to October. Lori has a version of 4x4. It's 12 hours, 1 mile every hour. You can break
Nice.
it down and make it however you want. The 4 hours does take a lot of your time, and it takes a lot of energy. So it's not just, oh, I can't, I hear Goggins talking about 4x4. Well, make it where you can make it.
Sure.
Yeah.
If
it's only 6 hours and you run an hour every 6, you run 6 hours and there's a mile each hour. That's doing something, and you're forcing growth on that. And that's important. But But as far as I'm probably doing either 5 to 10K every week and then 3 miles on the track every week, which I want to shout out to John Harden of the tardigrades. He's also one of the big, when it comes to the ultra community, ultra races and mileage. He's one of the big ones around here, man. He puts on a hell of a race, and he is a very genuine guy. I don't know. You'll probably meet him at some point. He doesn't do a lot of the local races, but he puts on these ultras, and you know, he tries to show up every time with just who he is and tries to put on the best race possible. But he's also realistic. He's a runner himself, so he gets all of the, you know, details of it. But as far as like a genuine and solid person, I can't think of anybody else more than him that's influenced me, you know, to have integrity and do your best. His motto, I can't remember it right now, but before every race, he'll have you raise your hand and say a motto that he has built into his ultra runs. That has been huge. To repeat that from, I can't repeat it now, but it just shows his dedication and his commitment and his love for running and the people in the community. But yeah, mostly it's kind of random. I'm in my like 50s now, and I know people say I should be on a training program, and I'm on John's training program.
That's right.
It might not be the one. It might not be for you. It might be that you got to pick one out for yourself. And don't worry about what other people are saying, because they're
not you.
Body. They're not in your body, man. You've got to listen to your body, and you got to pay attention to the injuries. It's talking to you all the time, and it wants you to listen, even though you won't. But I'll randomly, you know, hit the weights. We've got a small weight room here, you know, at our house, and we're building it as we go. But
nice.
That's kind of random. I could probably rest for a week. You know, I mean, just depends on how everything else is going.
Yeah.
And I used to be real critical about that. You go, well, you know, you're not running. What are you doing? You know, like, call yourself a runner? Fuck, you're lazy as fuck. And then I think about it. It's like, no, that's an easy go-to for you, John. You can be very critical of yourself, and you know how productive that shit is, you know? So yeah, it's a real mix for me. But if you were to tell me, hey man, I'm going to be doing a half next weekend, and I need somebody at mile freaking 9, guess who's going to be there? Fucking me.
That's right.
And I'll run as slow or as fast as I can to get you to the finish, man. You know, like, that's my run. That's my training, you know? And I think it goes back to the community part, because I I need that more than ever. And I think that's where you grow and get better at being a human being, which is pretty fucking hard because it's always changing.
So you mentioned showing up at, you know, mile 9. So we talked about this for a minute before we recorded. Just want to give a shout out to Trey real quick and talked about yesterday.
Man, I'm super proud of Trey and his sister, man. They inspired me yesterday, man, doing all the just setting a real high goal and going for it, even though they didn't really know what was going to happen. And they made it happen. I know I say that word manifest, and I think it's sometimes it's a kind of a spooky word, or devil kind of thing, but I don't really think of it that way anymore. I used to, but I just think it's like you put your energy into something and see what happens. Maybe you get it, maybe you don't, and you can have an opinion about it, or you can say, hey, this was my experience today. And that, I think they showed up and did that, and they were both sore, they were both, but they went for it, man. And that's really the biggest inspiration for me. What I took away from it is, hey, they were going for it. Why not you? What's your fucking excuse? And yeah, but those two really inspired me yesterday. And they bought us like a big meal afterwards, and that was really cool. Trey's just good people, and I'd love to suggest that you have him on the podcast because he's probably a better guest than I am. But in terms of like details and figuring stuff out and not getting off track, because he's doing a podcast too of some sort. I think it's on relationships.
Okay.
Yeah. So
So what happened yesterday? So what race was that?
That was the Nashville Marathon. It was downtown, but it wasn't like the rock and roll. I don't believe it was the rock and roll. I think it was because the rock and
Run Nash.
April. Yeah, it's Run Nash. This one, the rock and roll is in April, and this one's in October, which I didn't really realize how many different, Nashville half marathons there are. They're growing a lot. So, but yeah,
it's every few months they have to shut down some part of downtown to do a race.
Yeah. And Run Nash, I've done a lot of those races. I probably got some bibs in the back here from several different races that they put on. They're a big outfit in here in Nashville too that shows up and puts races on. And really, I'm very grateful for them too. Like just being able, because I know that's a lot of work. Man, that's a lot of work.
Have you done the hot chocolate run before?
Yeah, I did. One time I did that with Allie. Yeah, I did that with Allie and Patrick. But it's been a while since I've done that. It's been like 5 years or something. But that's a fun one. Roselle Parks, man. Concrete.
It's a fun run. Middle of February. Yeah.
February.
It could be nice. It could be freezing. You don't know. Just show up and you get hot chocolate at the end. So that's great.
Yeah. I try to ease back, and I'm always trying to figure out a way to delete the calories after I donuts and hot chocolate and bananas and
that's why I run, so I can eat all that stuff.
well, I get it. I do that too, but I like to manipulate it in some way to maybe I don't get the calories this time or something, but it always I always get the calories.
So I guess this is probably a good time to talk about nutrition. Day to day. So I like to think, I know a lot of people that talk about nutrition as like what they're consuming on race day, which is usually like gels and gummies. And, like to me, that's not really nutrition. That's more like fuel. Like nutrition is your day to day, what builds the rocket ship. And then what you do on race day during it is more like the fuel, like keep going. So, what is do you care about what you eat day to day for, keeping up with your running, or you just very loosey goosey with it, just like your training? Like what's your preferred style there?
I'm pretty all over the road like a drunk driver. When I gave a shout out to Benito's, I was like, hopefully they'll give me a free one.
We always like free pizza.
And I'm not really that disciplined around eating. And I think it kind of stemmed from when I was younger and what I ate when I was younger, because, it was real sporadic back then. We would have like the chili and the spaghetti and all that kind of stuff, I never really had any discipline around it. And it still shows to this day, which people are still gonna, if they really knew what I ate, they'd be like, how the fuck are you doing what you're doing? They would just be baffled. But I have become more disciplined since, Lori and I have made commitments to, losing weight, the extra weight. We're getting a little older, so that's always a motivation, because you never know what's coming, man. Like with health, it could be
Sure.
it could be a really good report, or it could be something that's really bad too. But I think that we're keeping our eyes on that in terms of that. So, am I eating McDonald's and Burger King every day? No. Am I eating correctly in terms of like oatmeal in the morning, or do I have a set pattern? No, I don't. Can I get better at it? Yes. Am I doing steps towards it? Yes. But I still love the ice cream. I still get the candy bar at the grocery or the gas station. How to consume too much sugar 100% of the time.
We run it off. Yeah.
I'll run it off. Yeah, I'll run it off. Because it seems, yes, it's kind of a chaotic. It's kind of like a drunk driver, weaving all over the road, but somehow still being able to show up and pass the physical.
How about during? So, like, do you have go-to gels? Do you use gels? Like,
Well,
what's your
I do.
during race?
I don't. I haven't really jumped on the gels as much on race day. And I'm probably leaving out some things that I'm very disciplined about. Just playing to like the reality of convenience in the United States of America. I will take, it's really hit and miss with me, but I will do like energy drinks, which is fucking horrible, but I'll balance it out with some water. I do. It's just hard for me because on ultras, it became completely different in terms of what I would eat on a race day. I thought peanut butter and jelly, would be great. And then that doesn't quite sit right. I'll tell you a race that I did feel like I had some success in terms of eating was Mobile, which is awesome sauce. It's out there in, is that Pegram, I think, near Pegram? No.
Is that Montgomery Bell?
Montgomery Bell State Park. Is it Pegram? Yeah, it's out in Pegram, which I would plug that place 100% of the time. Montgomery Bell it's a sweet spot for runners, man. I think everybody gravitates to that place. But there's a race out there where they had a full spread, and I would eat spaghetti before the run, the night before, which I feel like is very disciplined for me. And during the race, they would have a spread of, a balance of, sometimes they would have hamburgers there, bacon, and then they'd still have like the sugars, like the cookies and stuff like that. But it was more balanced out. Salt, pickles, things like that, pickle juice.
Nice.
That's on like during like an ultra, but I don't really have a lot of discipline around it, which seems very odd to be able to pull off the shit that I'm doing. But I'm just geared. I think I'm geared in a way that you couldn't really describe. It's really not that I'm some kind of super fucking hero, because I'm not, but I can pretend to be one for about 6 hours.
That's longer than a lot of people can.
Yeah, the human body and the human condition, man, we can pull off shit. It is amazing. Like I've watched people just perform at like a peak, amazingly, stuff that you would think, oh, they can't do it. Yeah, they did it, and they did it fast. They did it efficiently. Yeah. We're very capable of a lot of things. Just don't know until you try, you know?
And it takes time.
Yes. Yes. You gotta be patient with that. Yep. How about you?
You,
I feel like you put me on the spot, so I'm gonna ask you.
So for day-to-day nutrition,
Yeah. Like what's your rundown on day to day and race?
so I am definitely changing that up a bit. I was very concentrated on protein there for a minute. So trying to get, I think I listened to Peter Attia's podcast and read his book, longevity book. And the recommended daily intake for protein is like, I think 0.8 grams per kilogram or something like that. But then he says that is insanely low for anyone who's training. Even as we get older, we're just, once you get into your 30s and 40s, you're starting to lose muscle mass like at an accelerated rate.
Mm-hmm.
So I think he recommends, I think a pound or a gram of protein per pound per day. And I really started to focus on that for a while. And I was drinking like 2 to 3 Fairlifes a day, and I had this whey protein powder that I was mixing in with yogurt, and my knees were just killing me. And I this isn't like a correlation as causation thing, but I was like, wait a minute, I am consuming a ton of dairy right now. So and I've been listening to Rich Roll podcast a lot too, and he's a plant based runner, and there's a lot of it seems so. Michelle is also a plant based ultra athlete, and there just seems to be a lot of them. So I'm definitely changing my diet a little bit. I'm not going to claim I'm plant based at all. I'm definitely not, but I'm definitely trying to focus more on just more fiber. Like the focus is shifting more towards fiber versus protein for me. So I'm doing more like bowls from the garden. Like I go get some greens from the garden, then I'm like roasting sweet potatoes. Throwing in either some black beans or some chickpeas. Like just trying to like just make quick meals. I do overnight oats a lot in the morning.
What do you mean by that?
So we do
Overnight
oats,
oats.
and then we'll soak them in coconut milk right now. I may switch to almond milk. Throw in some. I can send you a recipe. I throw in some chia seeds, some blueberries, maybe some chocolate chips, and so I make like 4 or 5 days, like a batch at a time for us, and then I just go downstairs and grab one for breakfast. That's been great for breakfast. During races, I can't do gels yet. I've got one like in the pantry. Like, okay, you're gonna take one on one of these runs at some point just to see how you do. Because especially with I have a half Ironman coming up in May,
Nice.
and so I've got to basically learn how to fuel for like put all those pieces of the puzzle together, and fuel during the race is going to be important to figure out. So I've got some of that. I got to learn how to take those. I do like the bonk breakers and scratch the little gummies, the chews
Gotcha.
during stuff. But yeah, nutrition, I guess day to day has been a bit of definitely something I've been exploring more. Just trying to, I do a lot of cooking. I made pumpkin soup yesterday for the family, and so I have a bunch of pumpkins like that I grew a year or 2 years ago in the shed. So like I could just walk out to the shed and grab a pumpkin and roast it and make a soup, and it's been pretty cool.
That sounds great, man.
Yeah, the garden. I think gardening has like really fueled a lot of it's been like a cycling up of going out in the garden and getting better at cooking and growing your own food has kind of made me focus a little bit more on nutrition. But then at the same time, nutrition is also cycling up the athleticism, motivation, and stuff like that. So they're bouncing off each other, and that's been handy. That's what I'm currently focusing on is overall less dairy for sure. And just trying to do more plant-based stuff. But I'm not religious about it, not, I'm very flexible still. I'm also very hungry all the time, so I'm trying to figure that out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the only thing I can tell you about that is sometimes when you're hungry, you're probably just thirsty.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's as far as I've got with that.
Yeah.
So I always check the water first to see if I'm really hungry. And I think
Yeah, do you track your water during the day? Are you tracking
no,
that at all? I'm not.
I will definitely get enough though. Like because I'm clearly addicted to water for
Okay.
sure. So it's always my go-to before anything else.
Nice. I see you've got a spectacle back there of bibs and medals.
Yeah.
And yeah, I've got like a small one going.
The cowbell. I'm the first one to do cowbell on your podcast.
I love it. That's awesome. So you've put a lot of mileage on, obviously.
Yeah, I think my highest mileage years were, I was in the 2000
Wow.
miles for a year.
That's
I
good.
think that was in like the 2020, 2021, 2022, I would say. That was
Just recent.
Yeah, I think, I think all of those times, because I'm definitely not at that no more, just because of life, but not injury, but just I've decided to do other things other than running. But that I don't really know if the data and all of the benefits from you putting all of that effort into, you get it right away. I think it's a delayed response. And then when you're ready to hear it, or it comes to you, and I'm not like, I know it sounds like a mystic, but it's just how it works for me. I'm still picking up data from the 4x4, that I did. And it really kind of came through last night, but
yeah,
if
you don't mind, let's talk about that.
Oh yeah. We can talk about that.
Yeah, so the 4x4x48. Go if you don't mind explaining what that is.
So
To
David
everybody.
Goggins, I think, made it popular. I'm sure he's probably not the first human to do it, although it's the first time I've heard about it. But basically, it's run 4 miles every 4 hours for 48 hours. So basically, what it is you got to commit to 2 days of running 4 miles every 4 hours. Period. I've done it several times. This last time was the very best time that I ever did it. How the results in terms of how I was able to gain from it, and just how I was able to gain from it. But I'll break down a little bit of what happens to me, during this time. I just happen to have, you spoke earlier about your knees, I think it was.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Yeah. So the way I approach that kind of stuff is I don't go down and talk to the doctor about his opinion or what he thinks. I have a different way of doing it. And through the 4x4, I'm able to get to those pain thresholds and break them. Which I still can't. How the hell I can figure that out, I don't know. I don't know how that would work, but to explain it. But during the 4x4, I know I'm skipping ahead here, and I don't mean to. I want to be as clear as possible, but my calves were just locking up in different races before I even started the 4x4. And during this time that I did it, the pain, got to a 10. And it's very specific times on this 4x4, because you've only got 4 hours to work with these in these 4-hour increments. And I think on my second round of, which would be the night of the 4x4, my hours were 6, 10, 2. So that would be PM and AM. It's just kind of like, it's like a wheel. I was peaking at peak pain with my calves seizing up. And when I say calves seizing up, I'm talking about afraid to take the next step because I didn't really know what was going to happen. I don't know if my leg was going to break off or something. Foot was going to snap or something. So that I hit that peak at about 2 a.m. The second round of the 4x4. So 2 a.m. Peak pain. I was hitting the hills around here in my neighborhood. It was hurting real bad. And I just tried to show kindness to myself and pay attention to what was happening to me. Did I need to change the route? Things like that. And I was able to beat that. So I think I hit the pain threshold and was able to kind of like ease it back. The next round was a little bit less. And then it would peak a little bit. And then the next, 6 o'clock, 10 o'clock, it was diminishing the entire time. And I took that not as like some kind of scientific idea. I just know how my body reacts to pain and discomfort. And I know that I've done it enough times to know that if you go to it and then you go to the pain and if you have time to do this, it takes a lot of time, but you meet with that pain and you see what really is happening. Because if you start out running, your foot's going to hurt and it's not even your foot. You think it's your shoes, you think it's this, you think it's my hip, this and that, all that stuff. It's just your body adjusting to what's happening. I think some of the time, that has been my experience. I had the hip, I had the knees, inside, outside, I had all that shit. And I got past all of it through just keep going and listening to my body, resting when I need to, not resting when I need to. And I ended up, but the 4x4, basically what I did on this, what made this time unique is, I don't know if you ever did this when you were a kid. Did you ever build a fort out of like the couch?
Oh yeah.
Well,
drap your sheet over the top.
Yeah, you got your top and your sides and all that stuff. Well, this time I kind of did that in our basement. And except for I had the most upgraded fort of all time. I had big screen TV. I had my notepad. I had my phone. I had great crew chief of Lori and all the food that I thought I would need. And if I could probably talk about all that stuff in detail if I needed to, but this particular time, we kind of just made like this little space for myself. And
very cool.
I made it's kind of like a cocoon in a way, but I did that not really intentional, but it just kind of happened. Because it was an intentional 4x4 run. I was really going for it this time. And and it just seemed like it could happen in this space. It's kind of like things just happen as you're going. You keep getting better and better at it. And that's what was happening with this. But, we made this little fort and just kept showing up for them every 4 hours, man. Just keep showing up for it. And I think at that time I did do a lot of the pickle juice. I did certain things. I usually go all out ape shit before a race, right? Like, especially in ultra, I'll just go buy hundreds of dollars of shit that I don't need. You know,
Yep.
I'll take it back. I never take it back. I'll end up giving it away, which is always a good thing because somebody there at the race will need it. But this time I was really concise about the things that I got. And it seemed to just be the sweet spot this time for that particular 4x4. But I had this little fort, you know, it's the best way to think about it because it's just the best way to think about it for me. I loved it.
So what have you worked out with that recently as
Sorry.
far as what you discovered on the run?
So it became like prayer and meditation this time. It's a lot about suffering. The first couple of times I did it, it's really that's a really rough schedule. You're not ready for what else can happen. you could plan all you want, but that 2 o'clock in the morning is gonna kick the shit out of you. And then it's gonna be good too because you got 4 of them, you know, and some then you know the next one's gonna be, maybe it will be rough or maybe it'll be easier, but you don't know. But the biggest one was, I think I do give a lot. And I don't mean that to say like, oh, look at me, you know, I helped all these people during Christmas or whatever. I give a lot during, I try to give a lot back to my community, and a meaning run community and the individuals who ask me to show up for them, or I find myself, you know, in the middle of a race and I'm having a hard race, or I see somebody having a hard race. I will try to get with them, you know, just be like, I'm go beside you or run behind you, or, you know, and try to quietly support you, you know, and that takes energy to do that. And what I found this time on the 4x4 was that I was able to recoup some of that because it was a meditative kind of prayer time for me in a way, which I'm not really super religious, but I know some things about it, and there are some things that I like about it, and there are some things that I don't like about it. But it was restorative for me, if that makes any freaking sense whatsoever, because it's such a strenuous time, and it's very consistent. You've got to stay on that 4 hours. So it's almost like it doesn't really end. Like the 4 hour will start and you'll finish it. The 4 miles will start and finish, but then that 4, you know, you got to be ready. You got to be sitting there ready. So I think it contributes to me being hyper and spastic, but in that there's kind of like this readiness, and then it also kind of translates to other parts of my existence.
So what did sleep look like during that time?
You know,
for
just
you?
catch like an hour or 2.
Yeah.
And you don't want to miss that next time. So you're kind of like vigilant. So you're kind of like power napping, I guess, if that's a thing. Yeah, I would just do a lot of power napping. And during the day, it's kind of like you can stay awake, you know, like the daylight hours. But then it's really hard during the night, like, because it's kind of, oh, I need to go to sleep or something. My sleep schedule, I don't think, has ever been average, ever. Like, I don't know. Can I get 8 hours? Yes. Will my body shut down and I won't be able to do anything? Yep. You'll do it unexpectedly. But it also allows me to do things that I might not be able to do, you know, normally. I hope I stayed on point there. It kind of felt like I was on the road.
How important is support crew for a 4x4x48? Like,
Yeah,
can you do that by yourself?
I would. So it's dual. It's like it's the duality of man, right? I would recommend that you do it and don't tell anyone, because of the prayer and the meditation. that you can kind of get out of it, and the restorative, the restoration you can get out of it. But you kind of need that the first couple of times when you need that support. You almost need like a crew chief. And anyone can be a crew chief. You don't have to have a fucking qualification. You don't need to go to school for it. You just show up and say yes to somebody and ask them what they need.
So for you, what does support look like? Like if you could make like your top list of things that if someone was supporting you during a race or for some event like a 4x4x48, like what are the things that would be most helpful to you, and say, or you can see that in someone else's crew and say, that's what support looks like?
It changes, but I would really like a mind reader.
Yeah.
That would be really cool to have a mind reader. The most important thing that I see in that is somebody knowing what their experience is. Because when you're familiar with yourself, you're pretty much familiar with Kasey. You're familiar with, DC. You're familiar with Patrick. You're familiar, and you can make a connection. So if I can connect with somebody, whether it be spiritually or, have some common traits that we share or characteristics that we share, that's very, very helpful for me. If that person is full in, then it makes a whole big difference for me when they're all in. If they're like, oh yeah, I'm all in, but I'm going to be going to the mall to get some clothes. Yeah. That's pretty good support, but it's not perfect. And I can go with it too, I can go with a little bit of support. But if you ask me for ideal, I need to have a connection with that person on a couple different levels, and communication is huge. Just like everything else, you got to be able to communicate. I think those are big. And if they show up and say yes, and you can feel that yes, that's huge, because then they kind of know, and then there's stuff that you might need from them that they'll just kind of like, oh yeah, they'll think about it in the moment, But it sounds like the more I listen to myself, I'm kind of like living by the seat of my pants. Like,
I think we all are in a way, but
yeah, but it doesn't seem acceptable to say that. It seems like you should have your plan together. And what about all those photos on Instagram? And I don't have any of that shit. I find that the most enjoyment that I've had through all these experiences is not really knowing. But not knowing is also very intimate and weird place to be, right? Because that control, I love to control things. I want to choke it if it's not going to do what I want it to do. So having the knowing and the not knowing, and being able to play off of that, and also impermanence. Yeah, that's a big thing for me, because it's ultimately a teacher. I know it as a teacher now, where it used to be extremely foreign to me and I was not interested in it, but change is always happening. So I can't alter that and I've tried. I think there's a lot of people come before us that's tried. They didn't figure it out. And the biggest part of this time was all the things that I gave to people. Like if I showed up for Trey and we ran a little bit there, and he was able to succeed in something that he put forward, anything that I gave, in that terms or in that way, I received it back during the 4x4 this time, which was a strange thing, because I don't know how putting effort into something, you get something back. I don't, it makes sense in some ways, but I somehow can just tap into something else, and it pulls I'm able to gain from it. Maybe it's the forced growth stuff. I don't know.
Maybe it's the what stuff?
The forced growth.
Okay. Yeah.
Just pushing yourself into that next mile when you're like, definitely, no, let's go watch TV.
Right.
Fuck all this, Yeah. Something magical or mystical in that next mile,
So is that forced growth? Is that what keeps you running? Is that your why? Do you have any other whys of why you run? What keeps you running?
I don't want to die fat.
I love that.
I don't want to die fat. But I'm not in as big of a hurry as dying as I used to be, I guess that sort of answers that, but not really.
Well, there's a phrase that death begins in the feet. So,
man, I feel that. I feel that. I think it probably, it's closest thing to the ground, right?
Yep.
It'll be the first thing that goes back.
Keep you moving.
Yeah. I think that, I can identify with that for sure.
Speaking of feet, you've got a lot of miles. Do you have go-to shoes, gear that you want to talk about?
I'll just take mine off because this is the other one I can run with.
Because you've probably gone through a lot of shoes.
This is the only shoe that I can wear. It's a street
What do you
shoe.
got?
It's a Nike Flex Contact. Is that so?
Can you do a bend for me real quick? Just kind of bend it.
Oh yeah, it's all flex.
Okay. Nice. Okay, so this is a minimalist shoe.
Sort of a minimalist, but it's got the fat part here. I think it's a 5. This is a 6.0 offset 6.0, but this is the only thing I can wear out there, man. Trail or street.
How come?
Everything else hurts, man.
Really? What hurts?
Everything. Like I'm not able to beat that. Like if I change shoes, I'll have pain for a long time. I just found this shoe, and I know some people are like, oh yeah, you got to find a certain shoe or you're going to be in pain for the rest of the time you run. And I think that's true it was true for me for a while. And then I found this shoe and it works, but changing shoes just alters too much for me.
Okay.
In terms of hitting the ground. Just, I don't know what it is. And I've been made fun of my shoes on routes. Like,
really?
I'm in the middle of a trail and they're like, you got the wrong shoes on, dude. And I'm like, yep. And I'm okay with that. I used to get mad about that. I used to be like, well, fuck you. I don't care about your shoes. I think your shoes are ugly. I just feel like stupid, the community has all the elements of society, the stuff we don't like, but they also got a lot more love, and acceptance, even though they don't understand. It's easier to understand when you're in the middle of a 50-mile run. Oh, well, that works for him. That's cool. Might not work for me, but I just experienced changing shoes, going to anything different than this. Just causes way too much problems. I'm forcing more problems on my body than I want to. And I can't explain it other than, maybe I'm just getting too old for change in that way. I can accept some changes, but then the shoes I can't accept. But these shoes are pushing me towards, because they came out of like 1995, I think. Or I don't know the year. They're not making it anymore. So now I'm like eBay, all this kind of thing. Like I'm trying to find these shoes and my size is like 10.5. So it's getting pretty slim trying to find these shoes. So I'm going to have to make a change, which I'm pretty fearful of that right now, to be honest with you, because I don't know
which ones will work. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you say minimalist, but Man, I don't know. Like,
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely some minimalist features there that we could probably. I think we could find you some shoes. I'm not an expert, but I try to stay a little bit up to speed on that camp just because of my journey. Um, I've been a little bit more obsessed with shoes, but like the way you bent that, that the flexibility there, to me, it looks like you prefer to be able to feel the ground.
yeah,
Like you need that feedback, and that means your feet are probably really strong. So because when that sole is flexible, that means your feet are doing the work. Versus
yeah,
when you've got a rigid shoe, you know, all your when your shoe is very rigid, all your feet muscles have just atrophied.
yep.
And so your feet are probably like incredibly strong. Look for that wide toe box, and I don't know what the drop is, the heel to toe rise on the.
It's like 6, I think. I think that's
Okay.
what it means, 6.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't have this isn't the wide. I don't think this is the wide. This is like the pointy.
Yeah.
It's kind of like pointy.
Yeah. So yeah, that's not too bad. I've seen the toe boxes be really narrow, but it does flare out a little bit.
It is definitely. Yeah, you're right though. It does have a flare.
But that's flexible sole there is probably the best feature that we could probably at least look for. Yeah.
But I've still been able to find them. It's just been I get really fearful when I need to get a new pair of shoes.
I know.
Like, oh my God, I don't know.
You're like going to the dark web.
Yeah, I might have to go to the dark web for it.
Yeah. Start paying crypto or something.
I've heard that's a bad place, but I'm kind of bad myself, so I might fit in. I don't know.
So Nike, you need to make these shoes again.
And I'm like, give me a number, give me an email, because the only email I found was I'll beat these people down. They'll have to make it, because they'll have to fucking make it, man, because I will be I will call them every day. I don't want to make that change, even though I may have to. I'll make a call for them guys, man, and get them, because I mean it's a huge company, so they'll probably make it again if we get enough pull, and I just don't leave them alone for a year, right? Anybody gives up after a year, right?
That's right. we're gonna call it's gonna be the John Stock special edition.
John, just
version.
fucking won't leave us alone. Let's go for it, man. Let's just. We only got to make like 10 and a halves. I mean, that's funny, man. I like laughing with you, Kasey.
That's right. We gotta find you some new shoes, John.
I appreciate it, man. That means a lot to me. Man,
gotta keep you running.
Yeah, I'll keep going until I can't. But
any other gear you swear by? So like your watch, your.
I don't like to run shirtless, which I think Laurie's a big fan of me leaving my shirt on. Not because I'm incredibly a sex symbol or anything, just to get leave your fucking shirt on.
Yeah, I've definitely been on those runs where it's like, okay, I need to take my shirt off. Sorry, everybody, here we go.
Yeah. That's me. I think the Nike, I do like that the short. I can't think of the name of it. I think it's REI. They sell it at REI.
Outdoor Research.
Yeah, the Outdoor Research has some shorts that I like. I don't necessarily go with the standard running short, but for the first time, I did buy those shorts. And the only reason I didn't want to buy them is they're like this, they're really short. And it's like, okay, I'm going to start showing stuff that I probably shouldn't show. I did wear those shorts, the running shorts, yesterday for the run. And you got to kind of beware because they're really short. And if you sit down, then start giving a show off and things like that. I don't know. It's okay for certain people to do that, but not so much, the 53-year-old guy, you probably don't need to see what he's got, you know. But I will wear those, and then there's another pair of shorts that I wear. But I think it's not so much the brand or anything like that. For me, it's the color black.
Okay.
I don't know why, but I just like that color black. And I think I've read a few things about black being it collects energy. So I don't know how that applies, other than maybe. And then I also think it might just be because Mike Tyson wore black shorts, and I view him as a very achieved person, even though he might have a lot of stuff going on for him. I see him as he achieved astronomical heights with boxing, and I kind of want to tap into that. Whatever, if it was the shorts that he was wearing, I'm wearing the damn same shorts. Like, look it, I want to wear that.
Yeah, I went to the so when I go swim, sometimes I'll change in the locker room and go in the weight room for a little bit. And somehow my wife's shorts ended up in my drawer. So like I just grabbed the shorts out of the drawer, threw them in my bag, and then I went to go change. And then I put on the shorts, like, these are my wife's shorts. It's like I look ridiculous right now. I did that two times in a row. Somehow her shorts just kept finding their way into my clothes. So the first time I just like walked out. I was like, I'm not going to go exercise in this gym with these shorts on. I look ridiculous right now. And the second time it happened, I was like, all right, we're doing it.
Man.
I feel ridiculous, but I got to get something in. So
yeah, no. Yeah, anything that works, you know, like,
yeah,
I got to be careful about certain things, but yeah, I go for it.
Mike Tyson versus Jake Paul fight. You think it's going to happen? Have you been paying attention to this?
You know, I think all the money's there, right? I mean, they're two big draws. So, yeah, I don't see why not. It's always pushing that, like, you think about how old Mike is and everything. And, they always try to frame it. I always feel like I'm being constantly marketed to by all these people. It's boring, but they use these names and everything. And, a lot of my boxing friends would probably say Jake Paul is a Disney punk or whatever. I don't know. I watched that. I watched him grow, and he's pretty. I think he's in there. I think he's growing a lot, and he actually has the money to have really great trainers.
Yep.
So you get around great people, you start doing great things. That's just how it works,
true.
you know?
Yeah.
But
if you want to be a pro, you got to train with the pros, kind of feeling.
And he has the money to put himself in those positions. Not that it always works out that way, but I see him growing. You know, a lot of those punches that he were throwing in the throwing in those matches that he had with certain people, they look pretty clean. You know, that looks like a pro to me. You know. But as far as like making that happen, I think it's mostly about the money, you know, the draw of the games and everything.
It'll sell some tickets for sure.
Yeah. I don't know that I think Laurie and I are more UFC fans.
Okay.
So MMA, I think we will get the pay-per-view if it's somebody, that we like, but we talked about getting the Tyson thing. We did watch the last Tyson fight in Florida.
Oh, nice.
We did. We risked a lot because that was 2020 to do that. So we did. I'm a big enough fan of Mike that I'll risk COVID to watch him fight. But now we can do it here at the house. So that's we won't have to take that big risk, but I don't really have a prediction. I want to see both guys just be healthy,
Yeah.
I like to see people. I'm big on watching people grow and push their growth and go through, all the changes to become what they want. I'm huge on that. I love watching that. There's just something that fuels me about watching people grow. It's just really cool, man. It's one of the finer things in life, I think.
Honestly, I want to thank you right now because, this is helping the show grow. Whatever this is, we're just trying to keep it going. And this has been, I got a new mic I've been so frustrated with my mic quality. So we'll see how it looks when I start to, edit it and download the stuff and review it. Anything else you want to quickly talk about before we do some closing words?
I don't know. I felt like I was all over the road, but yeah, I mean, I'm grateful for you, Kasey, to choose me. It's a big deal for me to be chosen. Not like, oh yeah, if I can get a big award or something, but I like to talk about myself, but I won't put myself in situations to do it. So
Yeah.
You putting me on here and having me on and asking questions and being interested in who I am and what I'm about, it hits like a core of me that I maybe don't like to visit or talk about, but it makes you feel a certain way.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So you did that for me, and I very much appreciate it. And can't believe it's actually like an hour and 30 minutes, man.
Yeah, we was chatting. Yeah.
I don't want to run you over, and I don't want to run your show into the ground, man.
No, it's not going to happen. And that's kind of the reason for the show is to give access to those of us who wouldn't normally be invited on a show. It's like, it's just, friends and saying, hey, you should go talk to this guy. And, I feel like a lot of us have things to contribute that, we don't normally get the limelight because we don't have the access or, not many people have been on a podcast and a lot of people want to be. And, maybe this is somewhere that people can feel bold enough to reach out and say, hey, let's go chat for an hour and a half or however long and see what happens. So yeah, I really appreciate you joining. So you mentioned earlier no social media presence. So I usually ask the athletes, the other two so far, of where if other people want to follow you, keep up with keep tabs on what you're doing. Sounds like you don't have any online presence there unless you have somewhere that people can go and keep track of your races or what you're up to.
No, I don't know. I don't know that I want to do that.
Yeah, that's fair.
I mean, show up at a local race. I'll either be there talking to somebody that I know, or I'll be like in a corner in the parking lot, drinking a Starbucks drink or listening to some heavy metal music. I will not seem approachable, but I am definitely approachable. And if you just go over there and say something smart to me or crack a joke, you fucking win a friend for life. That's how I do it, man.
We'll get some T-shirts printed that says "Where is John Stock?"
Where's
just come out of it.
He's in the corner over there having the time of his life all by himself. But I've thought about that, doing the social media thing, but I always talk myself out of it.
Sure. There's a level of purity there. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
So
yeah. And yeah, I mean, if that's a good excuse for me, I'll go with that one. So I'm trying to be pure.
that's right.
It's fucking hilarious. But I mean, really seriously though, like if you see me at a race, don't hesitate, man. Come talk to me, man. Because I might be it might look like, oh, yeah, he looks like he's really zoned out or something. And I can regulate before a race, talking to people. I can regulate my spazoid personality. But I think mostly I would find myself being encouraging towards you, maybe asking about you and what do you want to achieve today, or be generally interested in what's going on for you. That's usually because that's the community that I'm trying to tap into. That's what I'm looking for partially when I get there. And then if I'm trying to PR that day, I'll be a hyperspazoid type person, but you can communicate with me. If you don't mind me just doing random shit, like you talking about random shit. I do want to catch a run with you, man. We don't have to go long distance or anything. We can just maybe hit a 5K, or I can come to you. I think you said you were in Washington County, so I'm pretty familiar with Washington County. The Blue Trail. Yeah, you could.
I haven't been there yet.
You can talk me into it. It would be rough, but I get out there and I want to just go forever. So I'll have to have a little bit of balance. We'll have to talk about balance before we go, because I'll go till I'm hurt. I've tried to do some crazy shit out that Blue Trail, man. Try to go all night, like 12 hours. It was fucking, I crashed.
Oh man.
I crashed so hard on that. But I'm ready to just do a couple rounds out there, It gets a 2-mile route, right?
They're pretty short loops over there.
Yeah.
So yeah, that'd be great. We'll have to figure out when to go. I'm looking at maybe next weekend, but
next week.
Don't hold me to it yet. And yeah, keep in touch. We will. I definitely look forward to doing a run together. Maybe doing a John Stock run. People that you've met along the way, text them all, bring them together.
So all you need is show up and say yes for a J Stock run. You can bring some energy drinks for yourself or candy, but that's all you need.
It sounds like a lot of fun.
That's actually going to be.
All right, new meetup. All right, any final words of encouragement, etc., to give to listeners?
I'd like to talk about Buster.
Yeah.
That guy said, "Hey man, I got this guy that's got a podcast going," and I was like, I was completely floored that he thought about me, man. And Buster and his whole family they're solid people, man. Like I think about those guys a lot, and they, that when I think about a dad, he's a really good dad. I know his kids and I know his wife, and he's a good dad, man. I think about if I wanted to be a dad, what would it look like? I'd like to be like him. DC too, like those guys both have characteristics and things they do for their family that are different, but I admire that about them,
That's
because
awesome.
a lot of people can just wing it, but they're not. They're showing up and doing their best, and it really impresses me about Buster. But yeah, Buster's one of the coolest guys. I love that guy, man.
Me too. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And shout out to all the good dads out there.
Yes. Yeah. It's not Father's Day, but it's J Stock Day. So I'm saying Father's Day is today.
That's right.
You can recognize yourself today.
Awesome. Well, John, thanks so much.